Okay, everybody. Thank you so much for joining us today. Today we have Donny Hayes joining us. This is his first KVA, so thanks for hosting, Donny. We're excited to have you on. He's going to be talking about Autodesk Vault Professional permissions, everything you need to know. We're so glad that all of you are here, and we hope that you're enjoying the learning experience that is KETIV Virtual Academy. But I also wanted to highlight another KETIV learning experience, our KETIV Learning Program. This is a subscription-based learning platform. It has both live and on-demand trainings. It covers all products in the Autodesk Product Design and Manufacturing collection. It comes with your own KETIV advisor, personalized learning plans, and unique workshops each quarter. This is something that your team can take advantage of, and you can learn more about the program. You can see all of the benefits on our website or by scanning the QR code with your phone. I also wanted to highlight our upcoming event. So next week's KVA is entitled What's New in Autodesk Vault 2025. So if you're here today to learn more about Vault Pro, next week's session is going to be great for you all as well. We'll have someone from Autodesk present to cover all of the updates. We also have an upcoming webinar on Autodesk New Ways to Buy with their new subscription model. This webinar takes place Wednesday, May 15th at 10 a.m. So kind of a similar format as this. So you can sign up to join. This is free to attend as well. You can sign up to join by following this link. This is hosted by April Dupree and Longno. So some more familiar faces from KETIV. And finally, at the end of our session today, you'll see a survey pop up on your screen. You can give us feedback, let us know what sessions and content you'd like to see covered. And thanks again, Donny, for hosting. I will let you take it away.
All right. Thank you, Christina. My name is Donny Hayes. I joined the KETIV team in January. And prior to that, I was working in the mechanical engineering field as a drafter and a Vault admin. For KETIV, I work on the data management team, and there we assist customers with their Vault implementations, configurations, upgrades, support cases, and all that good stuff that needs to happen to help you with your Vault. So I've been working with Autodesk products for about 24 years. And for about 12 of those years, I worked in Vault, and 6 to 7 years as a Vault admin. And as that title stated, we're going to talk about Vault permissions in Vault Professional. So I do have a poll question that will pop up. If you could answer that as I go over the agenda. And just want to know how many of you have configured permissions inside of Vault. So today we're going to go ahead and talk about what's required for users to be able to access the Vault. We're going to talk about minimum requirements, and then we're going to talk about roles, how to find the permissions that are associated with each role, so we know what we're allowing people to do. Then we're going to talk about access control lists, or ACLs. Vault uses these ACLs to manage access to the various content stored inside of your Vault. And there are 2 types of security that Vault uses: object-based security and state-based security, and we'll go over those as well. So it looks like a lot of you have configured permissions inside of Vault. That's good. Hopefully I can provide some new information for you that will help you if you're struggling. For those that haven't, hopefully this gets you on the right track so you can start securing your Vault a little better. So most of the bulk of this KVA is going to be inside of Vault. So we'll jump right into it. It is live, so if there are some technical issues, just bear with me. So here we have our vault, right? Inside a vault, we can go in and we can look at our different users. We don't have a whole lot of users in this vault, but we're just getting started in configuring it. So we have an administrator, a guest, Jane Doe, John Smith. And so right now I am logged in as an admin. We can tell in 2022 and newer, we get this colored bar when we're logged in as an admin. So that's how we know we're logged in as an admin. So we can control all these. So let's talk about the vault itself. I like to look at Vault as a literal bank vault, right? We have, as engineering companies, all this IP that we've spent many hours and a lot of resources creating, between models, drawings, reports, simulation results, all this information that helps our company to earn money and to make money. And so we have to keep this all safe. And that's what Vault does. It's this big vault. And when we create a new user, we give them access to that vault door. And so as we create this new user, we'll just call this new user Billy. The minimum thing, the only things that you need to give them access into Vault is a Vault account. So we're going to create a Vault account. There are 3 different types. We're just going to go with a Vault account. Username is Billy, right? And then we just need to assign them to a Vault. And that's it. But there's a caveat, and I'm going to show this to you because I'm going to log out and log back in as Billy. All right, so Billy can get into our vault, but Billy can't do anything. He can't see any of the folders, nothing. So we've given him access to this vault. Inside of that vault, there's a security guard just standing there with a tablet, clipboard, whatever. It's got a list of the credentials and what Billy has access to. And right now, Billy doesn't have any access. We haven't given him that. So we need to rectify that. Now we're going to go ahead and give Billy a role. Roles are a named group of permissions that allow the user to perform specific tasks within the vault and authorizes him to perform all the actions associated with the role. But how do we know what permissions are associated with the various roles? If we go to the global settings, we'll see this manage roles button. We click that. We're given a roles management screen. And these are all the different roles that come out of the box with Vault, except for this test O. That is a custom per role. And you can add new roles, edit the roles. So what does the document manager level 1 have? What permissions does that role have? Well, if you look here on the right-hand side of this dialog, you'll see selected permissions. All of these permissions are associated with the document manager level 1 role. And this is what the user is allowed to do. And we can do the same for every one of these, right? Document manager level 2 has more roles. If we were to combine and give document manager level 1 and document manager level 2 roles to a user, that user would have those permissions would be combined and create like a union. And so that user would have all of the permissions contained within all the roles assigned to them. Now, we can manage roles or assign roles to Billy right here. We can assign him a role or several roles if we want. However, what I recommend doing is creating a group. And within that group, you assign your roles. And this will become hopefully a little more apparent as to why you would want to do groups as opposed to controlling roles through the individual as we move on. I will say at my last position, we had about 150 Vault users, and we had only 5 or 6 groups. So we were able to break down our various departments into different groups with similar roles. That allowed me to set up the Vault permissions based on groups. And so anytime we added a new user, we added that new user to a group. The roles were already assigned, the permissions were already assigned. We didn't have to do anything but assign them to the proper group. And that becomes very helpful. So for a group, to add a group, right, we go to the groups tab, new, give it a name and some roles. And so we'll look at engineering, right? We gave it a name, gave it a role, we assigned it to the Vault, Apex Machine Works. And then for a group, you have to have at least one group member, otherwise it will not be created. So let's go ahead and add Billy to the engineering group. Okay. Now, when we do this, it's going to give him those permissions, but if he's already logged in to Vault, those permissions will not become effective until he logs out. So he has to, the users have to log out and then they have to log back in. So now if we log in as Billy, we'll see he now has access to see the folders. All right, so we have our folders now. We haven't given him permissions to do anything with these folders, but he can at least see them and see what's in them. And the reason for that is the permissions associated with that folder. And we'll get into that here in just a second. So now Billy's been given a role. So now the security guard looks at his credentials and says, okay, you've been given access to look inside the vault. And inside that vault, I look at these folders as safety deposit boxes. So this vault is lined with safety deposit boxes and the folders. And so as we can see, they're all locked. And so if Billy wants access, he's got to ask the security guard if he can view the content. If he can view the content, then he can, and we can, right? We can see these files in there, but we can't do anything. So the guard won't let us actually do anything to these files or what's inside of these safety deposit boxes. So that gets us to this access control list. What is it doing? Well, it's controlling 4 things. The user's ability to read the files, to modify the files, to delete the files, or to download the files. And so we're going to talk about 3 different ACLs: the folder level, file level, and lifecycle. And so at the folder level, we access these ACLs by right-clicking on the folder, going to details, Oh, sorry, you got to be an admin. So let's log back in as an admin. Details. Look at the security here. This is our ACL. This is an object-based ACL. If we look at the effective security down here at the bottom, object-based, right? And so right now, everyone is allowed to read. So Billy falls under that. Everyone. Admins are allowed to do, I set this up so the admin group is allowed to do anything. Now these securities, they propagate down to subfolders. So right now we're looking at the very top level APX KVA folder. These are the permissions associated to that. They've been propagated down to all the subfolders. And if we want to look and see what access our individual users have, we can go to this effective access tab. If we click this here, let's look at what can Billy do? Well, Billy can read. He's allowed to read the files. He's not allowed to modify. He's not allowed to delete. And he's not allowed to download. All right. So this effective access tab will give us the information we need to see what kind of permissions individual users have, and you can add multiple users to this list and see what they can do. And this is a good troubleshooting tool. If you're finding that a user is unable to modify, but they should be able to modify a file, you can use the effective access tab to see kind of, are they being denied, and start from that file and kind of work your way up and keep doing the effective access until you find where it's starting to deny them. So let's go ahead and let's say the engineering group has access or should be allowed access. Drop down to groups, find our engineering group, add engineering. We want the engineering group to be able to control the engineering folder. All right, that's their folder. Let's let them do that. Down here, let's go ahead and the products folder. Let's set some permissions for engineering and for consumers. So consumers can read. We're going to actually remove the everyone because we don't want everyone. So when you add a new user, they automatically get added to that everyone group. So all new users are added to there by default. So if you've got everyone, an everyone group, they're going to automatically be able to see unless you remove it like we just did there. So engineering is allowed to modify in the products folder, but they're not allowed to delete. But they can also download. So here we have our four things, that 4 actions, and then we have three things we can control, right? We can give them access, we can explicitly deny them access, or we can implicitly deny them access. Leaving it blank, it's not necessarily a no. It just is there. It's a no unless something else is telling it they can. So most of the time it will still deny, but it's not a hard no. If you put deny, that means no. This point, it doesn't matter what any other permissions they have, they cannot do whatever you're denying them. So we recommend you just leave it blank, unless you really need to say absolutely not. So here we're propagating them down to the subfolders. All right, so we have our subfolders. And if we look at the details of these, right, the permissions were applied to the various files themselves as well. So we can add permissions to these folders, allowing them to do any of those 4 tasks or denying them the ability to do those 4 tasks. We can also do it at the file level. However, it's not really recommended. You're not going to want to sit there and control all of these files and individually add groups and everything. What we recommend for those are the second ACL we're going to talk about, and that is the lifecycle ACL, right? So here we go into administration, behaviors, life cycles, right? We have our life cycles, and these life cycles can be applied to both files and items. And when we look at these, we have a security tab, and this allows us to be able to control the life cycle or the files in these various life cycle states. So when these files are in a life cycle state, we have work in progress, various states they have. And so we can control what can happen. So if we want to control who is able to view work in progress, files in a work in progress, or folders or items in a work in progress state, we set the read to allow. If we want them to be able to modify, we set the modify to allow, right, and so on. There's also transitions. Now this allows or controls who's allowed to move, change the transition state. So if we edit this, right, so if we go work in progress to review, we look at the transitions. Go to the security tabs. Right now, anyone and everyone who has access to these files can change the life cycle of this file from work in progress to review. Right, and generally, depending on your situation, you're going to determine which users or groups are going to be allowed to do that. And so if we want to add restrictions, we uncheck this no restrictions. And just like the folder lifecycle, we can add groups and users individually. Although it does become easier when you're dealing with the groups, when you've got, as your vault grows, because once you set it as a group and you add the user to the group, these permissions are set, they're given that. But if you add a new user and you're controlling the permissions by the user, you've got to go in and individually set those up for every user. And so here we'll allow them, but consumer group, so they're not allowed to move it from work in progress to release. So we'll say okay. Let's see this at work. Smith is part of the consumer group. These files. If we go to change the state of this file, he can't even see it. He can't even see the transition between work in progress and review. We've said you can't do it. Now, right now it's set to release, but we can always go in and deny them the ability to go from work in progress to release. These are the states that the consumer group has access to. Right, and we can see too that, you know, there's all these little locks based on the permissions. They're not able to do certain things. They're just locked based on those roles and those permissions. So with these permissions in place, we're able to secure our IP, control the access. These permissions also propagate to the thin client as well. So if you're using thin client and you're denying the ability to view certain folders, they're not going to be able to see those folders in the thin client either. So really that's how these permissions work and how you set them. Be careful. You don't want to go overboard with these permissions. You know, right? Go kind of start at the top level and just go down as far as you need to. Remember that these things propagate down to the subfolders and the files. But if you start getting, you have a lot of subfolders and start getting down into the weeds here and controlling the permissions way down deep in the subfolders, it's going to be more difficult to identify the issue. So, all right. So that's really all there is to permissions. And the nice thing about these permissions, once you have them set, they're set. You don't really need to make a whole, you know, changes very often. I rarely had to make changes in my last job to these permissions once they were set, because we were using groups. So again, it just has a quick summary. At a minimum, users just need access, or to get access to the vault, right? It's just a vault account and a assigned vault. However, to allow them to do anything, you're going to need to assign them a role, or multiple roles. And we do recommend that you do that within the groups so that it allows for more growth within your company as you allow more people to view data or to access data. We talked about where you can look at those or find the specific permissions for those different roles. We talked about folder level permissions, how to apply them, and what they allow us to do. Just remember, kind of be careful with them. It can cause problems if you add too many. And then we talked about lifecycle permissions, both at a file and an item state, that they are the same. It just depends on what your lifecycle, if your lifecycle is associated with files or with items. So that's it. That's all I got for the presentation. So I guess we'll open it up for questions.
We do have quite a few questions in the Q&A box down at the bottom. If anyone else has questions, please be sure to type them in. Donnie, do you want to start by reading Claudio's question at the top, or would you like me to read it?
Yeah, no, I can read it. That's fine. So Claudio asks, when using Vault Professional's thin client, what's the minimum settings for roles? Can I give users who only need to view model previews and send models to the job processor queues to generate previews? So they're going to need to be able to so I think Claudia, you'd want to have a job processor in place, and you can create a job processor user and give that job processor like admin rights, and so when they send it, it should only need view to be able to view or read. And that would be document consumer, I believe. But I would want to, Christina, can we get back to, are we able to get back to Claudio? Okay. So I'll do this. I'm gonna have to dig into that a little bit and maybe reach out to Claudio or
Okay,
to fully answer that question. That's see what they've got going on, really.
you got it.
So Patrick, out of curiosity, do permissions affect whether or not a user within a group can execute a design copy of Vault content? So yeah, those permissions are going to be based on their role. If their role allows them to modify or download the file. You guys have some good questions. Never had to look into that before. Permissions affect whether or not. I do believe that permissions would affect whether or not a user can execute a design copy. Because if they can't write to the vault, they're not going to be able to execute a design copy. So they need to be able to write to the folders they're looking to write to. Brian, always use group level permissions unless you get paid by. Yes, use group level permissions. If you get paid by the hour as an admin, then great. You know, users going through and spending hours setting up users, you know, whatever. But yeah, I do agree. Use group level permissions. Ray, other than groups, can you change permissions globally by on the individual level? Can you? So if they have admin, if the user has, if you're talking, Ray, if you're talking about the folder level permissions, if you give them permissions at the very top as an individual, that will propagate down to subfolders for that one individual. However, if that user is assigned to a group as well, you might run into some conflicts. However, if you have an everyone group and you deny everyone access to, say, delete, and you say you want that individual to be able to delete, the deny is going to supersede the allow on that individual. So the deny on the everyone will supersede the allow on the individual, and the individual user will still be denied the ability to delete the file or folder. But yeah, you could change permissions. Right. I'm glad to see that answered your question, right? Any other questions?
Well, thank you so much, Donny, for hosting your first KETIV Virtual Academy, and thank you everyone for joining today. We will see you at next week's session. It's what's new in Autodesk Vault, so it will be very applicable. Thank you guys again, and we'll see you next week. Bye, everybody.
Bye.